Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing okay. Today I want to talk to you about pink sand. Now I know that may sound a bit weird, but bear with me, it will hopefully make sense soon. We now have our 3-year-old at home with us all of the time, as I'm sure many of you are suddenly finding that you're in your homes all the time, or that children aren't at school or at nursery anymore. And with a 3-year-old comes a lot of questions, especially about all the things that are going on right now. And so we were playing with this pink magic sand that she has, that stretches and does all kinds of weird and wonderful things. And she's asking me questions like, why aren't we going to nursery, mummy? And why can't I go out to the park, mummy? And why don't we go to church, mummy? And I'm trying to explain them as best as I can to a 3-year-old. But some of her questions I simply have to answer with, do you know what? I don't know, or I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't really know why we have to do this or that. I don't have the answers to everything. And there's a lot of unknowns, isn't there, at the moment? There are a lot of I don't knows. And so we were having this conversation and I was playing with the sand. And sort of in my head, I was also chatting to God and going, God, I really don't know. And there's something quite anxious about that. And you can sort of go, oh, it's a bit weird not to know what's going on. And what are we meant to do with all these unknowns, all these things that we don't have answers for? And I really felt God just said to me, look at the sand. And I looked at the sand and I looked at it and saw all those tiny, tiny little grains that make up sand. And I was reminded of that verse from the Psalms that says that God's thoughts outnumber the grain of sands. And that also led me to the verse from Isaiah 40, which says that God put the stars in the sky and he knows them by name. And you just think about the gravity of that, the gravity of thoughts as many as the grains of sand on the beaches in the entire universe, the gravity of knowing every single star, where it's placed, and knowing it by name, knowing where it's meant to be. That is who our God is. And I really felt like God was saying to me, amongst all these unknowns, all these questions that you don't have answers to, what do you know? You know who I am. Have you forgotten who I am? I am bigger than all these questions. I am bigger than all the answers. I am bigger than what's going on in the world right now. I am bigger than it all. I am bigger than the fear and the anxiety and the chaos. I am bigger than this virus. I am even bigger than death, because our God conquered the grave. And I felt like actually, during all our questions, all our unknowns, maybe we need to come back and remind ourselves of who our God is. Those verses that I indicated from Isaiah chapter 40 start in verse 25 like this. To whom then will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes on high and see. Who created these? That's the stars. He who brings out their host and numbers them, calling them all by name, because he is great in strength, mighty in power, not one is missing. This is our God who created the heavens and earth, and yet knows us so intimately, knows and cares about the very details of our life. Our God is bigger than it all, and when it seems like it's overcrowding us and like it's all getting a bit scary and there are all those questions that we don't have the answers to, actually let's turn to what we do know and let's be reminded of our God who has us in the palms of his hand, our God who knows what's going on even when we don't, and our God who is bigger than all of this. One of my favourite worship songs is called So Will I, and I will leave a link to it in the description box, and I encourage you, once you finish this video, to just go and just have a listen to the words and just really pray and reflect on them. But some of them are this: as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapour of your breath the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. God is bigger than all we have done. He is bigger than our anxieties and bigger than our worries. Remind yourself today, maybe it's through magic sand, maybe it be through something else. God will remind you of who he is and remind you that amongst all the unknowns, amongst all the questions, he has got you. Our God is a great big God.